The last 4 weeks, most of us have endured a profoundly Lenten experience. This Lent, we didn't choose our Lenten disciplines, they chose us. Many of us started Lent vowing we'd give up chocolate or soda, and instead we found ourselves giving up so much more. And what made it all the more profound is that the entire world participated in this with us. But now we've got a problem. The church calendar says it's time to end our Lenten disciplines and to rejoice. And as much as all of us would love to do so, we know that is not yet possible. We know that there are still many weeks, if not months, before our shelter-in-place orders will end. It will be some time before we can rejoice with our friends and extended family around the same table. It may even be longer before we can come together in one place for Mass. Said differently, there is a real possibility that the season of Easter may be over before we can have a public Mass. How then are we supposed to celebrate this Easter? I think tonight's Mass, however, may help us with an answer. Tonight we are not celebrating Easter, we are celebrating Easter Vigil. Liturgically speaking, Christ is still in the tomb. He won't be resurrected until tomorrow morning. Tonight, all we have to guide us through the darkness is the light of Christ in the Christ candle and the promise of tomorrow's resurrection. Despite this, it is this moment, tonight, not tomorrow, but tonight, that we would normally baptize, confirm, and give First Eucharist to adults. We do it when all we have to guide us is faith, hope, and the light of Christ. And the reason we do this is because Easter is not just about the resurrection, but also about the promise of our own resurrections. Even tonight in darkness, we are a people of hope. And this is what we must lean on this Easter season. While I'm sure all of your families, for those of you watching at home, are going to do your best to celebrate tomorrow, just as my family does, I expect that it's not going to feel quite right, just like this empty church does not feel quite right. And so we must instead focus on the promise of the coming resurrection of our society. I do not know when or how this pandemic will end. But what I do know is that God will find a way to be victorious. And I know this because this is the constant and repetitive story of our salvation history. Every time there appeared to be no hope, God engineered a victory that surprised us. When the Israelites were trapped between the Red Sea and Pharaoh's army, as we heard tonight, God was victorious by finding a path through the water. When God's people were exiled to Babylon, God was victorious by bringing them back through the order of a foreign king. When Peter, our first pope, denied Christ 3 times, God was victorious through his own forgiveness. And when God's only son was killed, even then God was victorious. He was victorious even over death, raising his son from the dead. And God's victories continued through the centuries and to this day. When Christians were sent to the lions, God was victorious, growing the church through their martyrdom. When the Vandals were approaching to sack Rome, God was victorious by sending Pope Leo to the gates of the city to reason with them. When St. Monica feared her son would never come to faith, God was victorious by making Augustine one of the greatest theologians and saints of our church. And in more recent times, when the communists were trying to stamp out the faith of the people of Eastern Europe, God was victorious through the papal election of John Paul II, an obscure cardinal from Poland, the first non-Italian pope in nearly 5 centuries. And God will be victorious again. I cannot tell you how or when or what it will look like, but I can state with confidence that our resurrection is coming. And that is what we can celebrate right now, the promise of the coming resurrection. So tonight I proclaim with great joy, Jesus Christ has risen from the dead. He has unlocked the gates of heaven and given us hope that a new day is coming. And on that glorious day, someday soon, we will all rejoice, hopefully in crowded churches throughout the entire world. And we can join together in one voice on that day and say, Alleluia, God was victorious yet again.